but hello and welcome. My name is Shannon. My pronouns are they, them. And today we have a restorative class. And we're focusing on the low back, the hips, the pelvis, piriformis. It's a sciatica relief based restorative class. I've dealt with sciatica for a pretty long time, off and on. Thankfully, I haven't had a flare in a while. Um, and I think part of that is because I've been able to um, protect myself through a bit of preventative care, but also just been plain old lucky. Um, if you have a condition that can cause inflammation, sometimes it's just the wrong part of the body gets inflamed and it can aggravate something if we're already disposed to it, predisposed to it. But I think that the one thing we do want to remember about sciatica is that it's not really a condition in itself, it's a symptom. So there are two big reasons why people deal with sciatica. One is the piriformis muscle being a little too tight, because for a big chunk of the population, the sciatic nerve, which is actually a combination of nerves, but for our purposes, runs through the piriformis. So when it gets tight, it can kind of pinch and cause that inflammation, which can cause that numbness and tingling that can run down the leg. Sometimes, I mean, they say numbness, but it hurts. There is feeling there. Um, Another reason can be like a bulging disc that can put pressure on that same nerve, because it also runs through the spinal cord. Um, so we're going to go through a series of movements that can be helpful for both piriformis and through the back. Of course, we don't want to do anything that our doctors or physios have told us not to do, because all of our bodies are different. And I am not a doctor. And more importantly, I am not your doctor. So please pay attention to, your own lived experience, what feels good, what doesn't feel good. If we do start to experience anything that feels uncomfortable, stop. You can type in the chat if you want a different posture, or you can adjust to something that's more comfortable for yourself at any point during our practice. So, that being said, what do we need today? If you have a yoga strap, that's great. If not, we can use a scarf, a towel, a tie, a necktie. You can use anything that's going to help you kind of extend your arms and be able to manipulate your body a little bit. So that's helpful. Aside from that, our regular props, a couple blankets. You might notice I have one down on the mat, and that's just to make things a little bit softer today. And just a reminder, you can do that for any restorative practice if you want a little bit of extra softness. I have two blocks, and I'm sitting on my bolster. But if you don't have a bolster, no worries. You can grab a couple of bed pillows. And if you don't have blocks, you might want to grab a couple of like throw pillows or smaller pillows that we can use to stack and create height or cushion. So, all that said, we're going to start in whatever position feels most comfortable for our grounding today. So, excuse me. If we like, we can be reclined on the mat with maybe a pillow beneath the knees, or we can be in our bed with a pillow beneath the knees or a bolster beneath the knees. If we're sitting in our chair, we can have our feet against the ground, leaning back against the back of the chair or couch, or we can have our legs raised up onto a table, an ottoman, or a chair. It's going to be really helpful if you're practicing in a chair today to have a second chair or a table. I have a balance ball that I'll be using today. Anything that helps kind of lift the legs. So Once we've found our comfortable position, if we're chilly, we might pull a blanket over ourselves. We can be seated. I'm seated on my bolster, feet together and knees apart, maybe a little cushion under the knees if that's helpful. And once we find that position, we might start by taking a few deep breaths. Maybe taking a breath in through the nose, out through the mouth if it's helpful. Maybe with a sigh or vocalization, doing our best to let go of the day so far. We can take as many of these breaths as we need. And then when we're ready, we'll find our natural breath, whatever that looks like for us. Beautiful. We might take a few moments to notice the sounds in the space around us. And I'm in a city, so through your speakers, you might hear sirens or people. But notice what's in your space as well, so that maybe, we are aware of them and aren't as surprised when we hear things happening in the room. We might take a few moments to notice the position of the body, making any adjustments we need to be a little bit more comfortable. If we are dealing with some low back pain, maybe lifting the legs and laying the back and hips flat across the ground. If we have a pillow under the blanket pillow or blanket or bolster under our knees, that might help with that for us. And we'll notice those areas that we're resting against, whether it's against the mat, the floor, the bed, the chair. We'll notice those places where our body meets the support. We might notice if we feel any sensation. Maybe we notice the difference in temperature. Maybe we notice the softness of the blanket or the mat or the bed or the chair. Maybe we notice any subtle vibrations. Or maybe we notice that there's not really much sensation at all. There's no right or wrong answers. We might take a deep breath and on our exhale, really allow ourselves to rest against those objects that are supporting us today. Allowing them to hold us. And we might release tension in the jaw. Let the shoulders fall away from the ears. Let the arms be heavy. The legs be heavy. Allowing ourselves to let go of all those places that we tend to hold in, to hold tight, because we know that we're supported. We might begin to release the awareness of the body against the support and kind of notice the rest of our body. Maybe making note of anywhere that feels like we need to be careful or cautious with it today so that we can be as kind to ourselves as possible today. And then when we're ready, we might bring our attention back to the breath. We might notice the inhale and the exhale. If this breath feels good and comfortable, we can stay here. Or if we choose, we might see if we can bring the breath down into the diaphragm. If it's helpful, we might place the hand against the belly, noticing the expansion on the inhale and the softness on the exhale. If it's comfortable, we might also see if we can pull the breath in and out through the nose. And we can follow the passage of air in through the nose, down through the throat, down through the heart space into the belly. And on the exhale, feeling the belly soften, the ribs deflate, the heart space lower, and warm breath coming out through the nose or mouth. And this awareness of breath is something that we can return to anytime we need. If we need to take a moment to reconnect to the body, we can do that through the breath. If we need to take a moment to find ourselves in the present, we can also do that through the breath. And when we're ready, if we choose, we might start to bring a little bit of movement into the body, maybe through the fingers, the toes, the head and neck. If we're reclined, we might gently roll onto the right or left side, taking a moment here to acclimate before gently pressing up into a seated position. So I am going to demo our two options for our seated folks first, and then I'm going to come down to the mat and we'll demo for our folks who will be reclined. So if you're in a bed, you might want, if you're near a wall, you might want to position yourself so that your feet are pointing towards the wall, just to give you a few moments to take care of that. And for my folks who are seated, let me grab a block as well. We have a few options. So we're going to be coming into a few variations of pigeon, usually called reclined pigeon or reversed pigeon if you're reclined down. But for our seated options, we have a few choices. So for part of our posture, we're going to be bringing the knee up and in towards the body. Excuse me. So if we're seated, it's going to look a little bit different than if we're reclined. So first, I'm going to demo lifting the knee in towards the body. So we can do that with our strap or with our scarf, lifting up. And I'm going to take one of my blocks. You can take anything that you have handy to place the foot on, maybe a couple of your pillows or even your bolster. And if we would like, we can lift the leg up or we can use a strap to assist the leg up into this position. If we like, we can also lift the leg all the way up to a chair or table or an ottoman in front of us. But this would be a little bit more accessible for maybe folks who have larger bodies or less mobility through the leg to start. So we can hold here, or we can have the leg up against the object in front of us. And this will be the first part. The second part will have the option to come into more of our pigeon posture. So if we only have blocks available to us, We can do the same thing if we like. We can use our strap or to lift the leg and then rest on our side for our pigeon pose on the edge of the foot. Or if we have our chair or a table or whatever it is available, we can do the same thing, but where it's going to be a little bit higher. So because my ball moves, I'm going to hold on to it with one hand, but with a chair, you might not have to do that. And then bring the leg across. From here, you have a few options. You can stay upright, maybe lean back if that feels more restorative to you. Or if you have something that you can rest your hands against, maybe the bottom of the chair or the table, or you can grab your bolster and have that up on top as well. If you want to fold forward, you'll have the option to do that as well. So we'll be doing this on both sides, and you'll see when I'm down on the mat, when we'll be doing that. So I just wanted to make sure that folks had the tools available to them. Now I'm going to come down onto my mat. And like I said, if we're near a wall, our legs are going to be against the wall here. We don't want to be right up next to the wall because our leg is going to be bent. So we'll be a little bit further back than we would be for our, say, legs up the wall. And I'm going to be sideways, so I'm going to demo against the chair. So it's a little bit easier to see. There we go. So we can recline back fully, or we can have a folded blanket under the head and neck for a little bit, again, more cushion. And I'm going to lift both my feet, raising my knees. And I'm going to take my strap or my scarf. And I have a few options here. So if we can place the foot directly against the wall, we can do that. We can also place the foot over the opposite knee. And we can start with either leg because we're going to do this on both sides. I'm going to bring my strap around the foot. And then maybe lift the leg up, taking a moment here to just stretch the back line of the leg. Now we can keep our opposite leg raised with the knee up, foot on the ground, or we can stretch it out if we have space, whatever feels good. And after we've stretched out for a moment, we might bring the knee in towards the heart space, bending the leg at the knee. Pulling it in a little bit. If you have a larger belly like me, you might pull slightly off to the side so you have space. And we'll take a few breaths here. So again, if we're seated, we can be doing the same movement, or you can be resting the foot against the block and then applying pressure by hinging forward only as much or as little as we like. Beautiful. Now, if we like, we can return the foot to the knee and leave our foot on the ground. So we have our foot crossed over, say our right foot crossed over our left knee. And this might be where we stay today. This might be enough of a stretch, might feel good here. Or we can pull the foot in a bit, lift the left foot or the opposite foot so it's against the wall. And now we have the ability to rest our knee, our foot against the knee, and then our opposite foot against the wall. So this can be a bit more restorative, and we can hold this posture for about 2 or 3 minutes if that feels comfortable. Remember to breathe. If we can, maybe those deep belly breaths. And make note of where you might feel any tension. And if having it against the wall or the chair or the couch or the bed doesn't feel comfortable, bring the foot back down to the mat. See how that feels. Maybe having both the feet against the wall with the knees bent is enough as well. Listen to your body. We might not even need the strap at this point. I'm going to sit up so it's a little bit easier to hear me. If we want, we can release the strap and set it down next to us until we need it. Taking a few deep breaths. And we'll be here for the next 2 minutes or so. If this doesn't feel comfortable also, please feel free to type in the chat and I can offer a few different options as well. If we're seated, we'll gently bring the leg back down off the chair. If we're reclined, we have a few options. We might use our strap or our scarf to stretch the right leg or first leg back out. If we're against the wall, we might straighten the left leg or the support leg And then we can gently stretch out our right leg, letting them both rest against the wall for a moment. Or we can place both the feet on the ground and raise the knees. And then we're going to use our strap around our second leg. So again, however feels comfortable getting the strap around the foot. We'll start by lifting the foot either into the air or stretching the leg out if we're seated. And then we might begin to bend the knee, bringing the foot closer into the body towards the belly or heart space, maybe off to the side of the belly slightly. Noticing if we feel stretch. If we do, where. And then whenever we're ready, whenever we choose, we might bring the foot against the opposite knee. If we're against the wall, we might bend that knee, coming into our reverse pigeon against the wall. We can also have the right foot on the floor, the knee raised, and the left foot resting against the knee. If we're in the chair, we can have it across the chair or table in front of us. Or if this feels a little intense, we can bring both feet against the wall, bending the knees into more of a kind of Utkatasana or chair type position. Again, work with your body, with what feels good in this moment. This can be different every day. There's no right or wrong. There's just right or wrong for you in this moment. And once we've found the position that seems to be working for us, we'll rest here again for another 2 to 3 minutes. Feel free to take breaks when you need. If you have your legs against the wall, you might stretch them out. Same if they are on the ground. We'll return to the breath. If we're in our chair, we might again use our strap maybe to help lower the leg down towards the ground. If we have our legs in our pigeon, we might use our strap, or again, if we're against the wall, we might extend the support leg and then we can slide our opposite leg off and let them rest against the wall for a moment. If we have our foot on the ground, again, we can use our strap or we can gently lower the leg down. If we have been reclined with our legs above us, we're going to gently roll onto the right or left side. And we're going to take about a minute here just to allow ourselves to acclimatize. Maybe noticing our inhales and exhales. And whenever we're ready, we can gently begin to press up, taking our time. There is no rush here. There we go. Beautiful. So we'll take a moment here. And we're going to come into our next posture, which is a variation of frog or sphinx, depending on how you look at it. We can set our straps aside. We might want to have handy a bolster, a couple blankets, or our blocks, just in case we want a little bit of height or a little bit more support. I'm going to demo for folks on the mat first, and then I'll demo for folks who might be in a chair. So if we like, if it's comfortable, we're going to come onto our bellies on our mat. We can stretch the legs out behind us. And then we might bring our elbows under the shoulders, palms forward. This is where our Sphinx comes in. So from here, again, we have quite a few options. If this feels comfortable, we can stay here. If we want, we can reach the arms a little bit forward and kind of press into the mat as if we're trying to both press into the mat and pull the mat towards us, and then lift the heart space. And we can stay here, or we can lift either the right or left leg, whatever feels more comfortable, off to the side. It can be a little bit, or it can be all the way to parallel with the hip. And this is where we'll stay. So if this doesn't feel horribly restorative, I get it. This is where you might want to grab your bolster or a couple blankets and place those under the arm. And then we can readjust through the leg, finding whatever feels comfortable here. If we want even a little bit more, we might grab blocks or a blanket, put it on top of our bolster or pillows, and we can rest our head against that. And we can stay here. Now we can do one leg, or we can do both legs together, coming out as far as is comfortable. And finding whatever position feels good. So we can rest our head against our block, our chin, if we want to keep the head a little bit more upright. Again, we're working with what feels good in our body. We're trying to kind of stretch out that low back and pelvis to help relieve some of the tension there. So we'll be here for the next few minutes. Now, if we are in our chair, Sorry, I'm trying to make sure my blanket doesn't slip out from under my feet. There we go. Forgot that was there. Okay. Um, so once we're in our chair, we can have our second chair in front of us or whatever we have available. We're going to bring the legs out into a wide-legged position, however that feels good. We'll position the upper body, and then we might do some tweaking to the lower body. So from here, we're going to pull our second object up as close to us as we can get. And we want to either press down through the hands or maybe rest on our forearms. A little bit forward. There we go. Just so I can demo. And if we are getting enough stretch through the hips and through the low back here, then we can stay here. If maybe this is a little bit higher, so we're not getting the same amount of stretch, then we have the option to, depending on our chair, mine is a little wide, but if it's narrow, we might be able to rest on the tops of the feet. Again, in this chair, it's difficult to demo that, but it's an option that we have. If we feel like maybe our chair is really high and we're not getting much stretch at all, we could also put our bolsters or pillows underneath our feet to raise it up a little bit more so we have more sensation, right? So we're folding here and breathing into it. Whether we're seated or reclined, we do have the option of kind of thinking about our breath. Throughout our practice, we've been talking about pulling it into the belly. So feeling the belly expand on our inhale. If we notice the low ribs, the lower part of the back, when we inhale into the belly, we might also notice those ribs expanding. So we might bring our attention to that as we breathe, opening up those ribs and noticing how much space we have in the low back as we exhale and feel all of that soften again. Inhale, feeling it expand, creating space. Exhale, releasing, inviting softness. And we'll be here for the next 4 to 5 minutes. So if it does feel a little too intense through the hips after a few minutes, no worries. Go ahead and adjust the legs. Maybe pull the knees a little bit further down. We might even stretch the legs out and just focus on the low back rather than the hips as well. Again, it is your practice. Do what feels best in your body. And if none of these options are working for you, please do let me know. If we've only had one leg extended, we might switch legs now, straightening out the leg that was bent and bringing the other leg up. Again, or we can have both, whatever feels comfortable. We might stretch out both legs behind us, releasing them, taking a moment here. If we are seated, we might begin to press up. If we're on the mat, we might gently move our bolster away, place the hands beneath the shoulders, and we can exit. I am going to press into tabletop and come through a couple cat cows. You can also do this seated on your bum, but I'm going to I'm going to start with shining the heart forward, lowering the belly, raising the hips for a cow. Exhale, rounding the spine, chin to chest for cat. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. We can do 2 more of these on our own breath. Inhaling into our cow posture. Exhaling into cat. Beautiful. And then we'll come to seated. Beautiful. From here, we're going to come into a wide-legged position. If we're more comfortable in a folded position with the legs in front of us, we can do that, but that kind of presses into my belly. So I'm going to make it a little bit wider. We're going to take a few moments and maybe rotate the ankles. Doesn't matter what direction we go in because we're going to go in the opposite direction too. And then the opposite direction. We are going to point the toes away from us and pull them up. And we can do this alternating. So maybe right toe forward, left toes up, opposite. Do this a couple times. And then we'll point the toes away from us and see if we can bring a little bend into the knees, releasing the knees, bending and releasing a few times. Beautiful. Take any movement here that feels good. We're going to come into a short forward fold. So we can grab our bolster, we can grab our blocks and stack our blocks. We can place the bolster directly down on the mat if we have the mobility to fold to that place, or we can have it upright or angled to whatever height feels good for us. If we're in the chair, we'll come back to our wide-legged position and we'll come down for a fold. However high or low feels good for us there. So as we come into our fold, we're going to hinge from the hip. I like to bring the belly between the legs so I have a lot of space. We're going to be here for about a minute, minute and a half, taking a few deep breaths here. Our hands can rest against the bolster or against our legs, whatever, against the floor, whatever feels good. Just offering ourselves a little opposite from our back bend, allowing ourselves to find a little bit of balance in this forward fold. And when we're ready, we can press up. We might support the bolster or rest our hands against the floor, whatever feels comfortable. We're going to move into our final resting position, whatever feels comfortable. We can be reclined in our Savasana or corpse pose from the beginning of class. We can find a comfortable seated position. If we're in our chair, we might take our scarf or a rolled blanket, wrap it around the back of the neck for a little bit of neck support, and maybe lean back against the back of the chair or the wall. Our legs can be on the support in front of us or on the ground, whatever feels best today. And once we've found our position, we might take a moment to return to the breath. Noticing the inhale, the exhale. Noting that we've done what we needed to do. We've moved what needed moving, held what needed holding, and now we can let go. We arrive in stillness, not by force, but by invitation, only as still as we feel comfortable being. With each exhale, we can let awareness settle into the body. With each inhale and with each exhale, we allow the body to rest a little more deeply. Inhale, arriving, and exhale, softening. We might begin to notice the base of the body, the hips, the glutes, the low back, noticing any sensation. We might notice what feels at ease, what feels held, what may be asking for attention. And we can offer ourselves a simple message. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to release. Letting the breath flow naturally, allowing its rhythm to support us without needing to change or direct it. We might rest our attention at the right hip noticing what's present there. We might rest attention at the left hip, noticing that too. Maybe our low belly softens. Maybe the pelvic floor softens. There's no pressure to change what's here, just permission to notice, to feel, to invite. Now we might widen the field of awareness to include the deep structures of the low back, the pelvis, the piriformis, the sacrum. We're not trying to locate or label, just acknowledge what's there. These are places that often hold tension for us. They bear the weight of sitting, standing, efforting, and we can meet them with kindness. No need to fix or analyze, to force or to even force relaxation. We can notice, allow, and invite. We bring gentle awareness to areas that might feel tight or tender, noticing and letting them be. If the body feels comfortable and able to release, it will. And if not, that's okay. There is no failure here. We are not doing this to become better versions of ourselves. We're doing this to remember that we were never broken to begin with. If it helps, you might imagine the pelvis as a bowl resting on the earth. Each breath out, the weight settles. Each breath in, awareness returns. Noticing gravity, support, and the invitation to rest. And we'll be in this resting space for the next few minutes. If or when it feels right, we can begin to shift small movements full of breath, a stretch, a sigh, or a stillness that lingers. We can stay here as long as we want. There's no rush. We can carry this spaciousness forward, not as something extra to do, but as something already inside of us, remembered. You are here. You are enough. You are allowed to rest. And if you choose to rest here, I hope you have a wonderful evening. But if you'd rather, you can gently roll off to the right or left side, taking your time. And then maybe gently begin to press up only if you like. From wherever we are, if we like, we can bring the hands to heart center or place them anywhere against the body that feels good. We can take 3 breaths together in a way that feels comfortable for us. We might take a moment to thank ourselves for making space today for rest, for ourselves. And I'd like to thank you so much for sharing your practice with me